Today's episode of Darkness Radio is brought to you by Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. With the busy fall season just around the corner, look for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. Head to factormeals.com/darkness50 and use code darkness50 to get 50% off on upscale meals with premium ingredients like broccolini, leeks, truffle butter, and asparagus. That's code darkness50 at factormeals.com/darkness50 to get 50% off. Welcome in, everybody, to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Boy, have we got a good show for you today. We got an old friend stopping by. We're going to talk about a brand new book that's out there, and a book I think you're all going to be excited about. John Russell's our guest. We're going to talk about 20 ways to increase your psychic abilities. Everybody out there either has visited a psychic at one time or another, or has wished they had that psychic ability, that they could sit back and just predict themselves away, or that they could make contact with the other side. Is it a blessing or a curse? Maybe we'll talk about that today. And if you want to actually tap into that piece of yourself, maybe you're sitting at home going, you know what? I do want to become psychic, Tim. I do want to tap into some of this stuff. I think I have that gift, and I'm just on that precipice, and I want to just push that little boundary there and get into it. We'll talk about what it takes today to get into that, and we'll tell you how you can get a hold of John's book, and we'll go into some other areas today as well. You know, John also has another book that he's looking at getting out there. We'll tell you how you can help him get that book out there. It's called The Crying Tree and the Magic Rock, and we'll talk about that project as well. Let's bring him in right now, our good friend John Russell. John, how you doing?
Tim, it's so great to be here. Thank you for having me back. I'm doing well. Looking forward to our show today, as always. We always have a good time.
Yes, indeed, my friend, we do. You know, let's just start it out with this. There's a lot of people out there that say to themselves, you know, oh, I think I'm an empath, or oh, John, you know, I think I have the gift.
Right.
Where is the drawing line? I'm going to throw this right out there. I'm going to get controversial right away. Where is the drawing line between true psychic and imagination?
Well, you know, we all have psychic abilities to a degree. And that's the catchphrase, to a degree.
Okay.
And the analogy that I always give is like, I could take piano lessons for 5 years and do well to play chopsticks. And someone with a native ability at 5 years old can sit down and play Beethoven and goes on to become a concert pianist that plays with such skill and emotion that it brings tears to our eyes. And it's the same way in the psychic realm. We're all psychic to a degree. Every now and then, everybody has that, oh, I need a parking space. I need a parking space. So I felt the urge to drive this way, and all of a sudden the car backed out and there was my parking space. Or the phone's ringing, and I bet that's Uncle Tom. And sure enough, it was Uncle Tom on the phone. Everybody has that occasionally, but it's not consistent. Mm-hmm. Now, a professional psychic, such as myself, I've read professionally for over 50 years now. And for a professional such as myself, that type of thing has to be on all the time, all day long, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in perpetuity. And that's the difference. And the reason I wrote this new book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities, is because over the years I had so many of my clients ask me, John, how can I improve my psychic abilities? How can I get better? How can I experience some of this for myself? How can I activate my intuition? How can I foresee the future? And how can I do some things to make things happen that I want them to? And so over the years, when I read for my clients, I would teach them things, just the abbreviated version during the reading, that the other side has taught me over the years. Okay. So these are things that have come to me directly from the other side. These are not things that I learned from somebody else or that I copied from somebody else or whatever. These are things the other side has taught me, and I know they work. So I would teach these things in an abbreviated manner during the readings to my clients. And as the years went by, I thought, I really need to sit down and I need to write these things out in depth and length and present this to people that are wanting to learn these things. And so I took 20 techniques. Now, I had somebody ask me the other day, could you have gone 30, 40, 50? Well, yeah, I could have. But all of these techniques are quality, number one. So I wasn't worried about quantity. I was worried about quality over quantity. And the techniques that are in there are things that cover a wide spectrum of gifts and abilities and things that people are going to want to learn to exercise and want to learn to do. And what I did writing this book, you can have absolutely no knowledge at all, think you're as thick as a brick, not sensitive at all, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to take you, I'm going to lead you by the hand, step by step, and show you exactly what to do for the 20 different techniques in this book. And for an example, the very first chapter in the book is psychometry. I define it for you. I tell you exactly, step by step, how to learn it, how to practice it, how to get good at it, and then the real world application of it. So for every chapter in this book, there's 20 different techniques ranging from psychometry to candle magic to seances to Ouija boards to scrying with a crystal ball to attracting the perfect mate. And in each one of these chapters, I tell you what I'm teaching you. I define it for you, and I take you by the hand, lead you through it step by step, tell you exactly how to learn it and how to practice it to get good at it. Now, I'm already getting feedback from the book. The book is out. You can get it online at Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, several other places. And I'm already getting feedback from people that have read the book. And the greatest thing there's like, and I got to back up a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Go ahead.
The other thing I wanted to do in writing this book was strip away the gobbledygook surrounding psychic development and magical techniques. Because everybody's familiar with, well, man, I'd like to learn to do this, but I have to shave my hair and wear purple and go cut a willow branch on the third full moon of the year at midnight and chant these special words, and I got to have grave dust and I got to have this and that. No, you don't. And that's the beauty of this book. I stripped away all the rigmarole, all the gobbledygook, all the dogma, all the ritual, all the tradition, and got down to the brass tacks of this works. Here's how it works, here's why it works, and here's why it's going to work for you. So I did that. And the feedback is already coming in. People are telling me, you did just what you said. You stripped away all the confusion. You stripped away all the complexity, and you made it simple and easy to understand and easy to learn. And the other feedback that I'm getting is people have said, I've always wanted to increase my abilities, but I was a little scared. I was a little afraid. I didn't know if I would conjure something up that would throw things out of control or this, that, and the other. And they said, I've learned through your writing and through your teaching in this book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities, I've learned that I don't have to fear that. I don't have to fear developing my psychic power, and I don't have to fear anything going wrong. So that's the best feedback that I could get off this book, because that's exactly what I set out to do for people.
You just said something really key here, John. Let's go down that road real quick, shall we, my friend? And that's this. The gobbledygook and the how should we put it? The negative connotations of going down certain psychic roads.
Right.
I don't want to use the D word here, but I'm gonna.
Demons.
Yeah. Let's talk about the negative connotations of some of the work, and maybe even some of the things that are in some of the chapters in the book that some religious sects may say, I don't know that you want to go down that road, John, because there are some negative things that can come out of this. Why is it, in your opinion, if we strip away some of the gobbledygook, that the demons don't come with it, even if you strip that away?
Right. Well, we've talked about this before, and you've heard me say a jillion times that, we live in an age right now of demon hunters and demon chasers, and it's demon this and it's demon that. And if you sneeze, you got a demon. And if your tire went flat, you got a demon. And if you wake up in the middle of the night worried about your taxes, you got a demon. Everything is all this demon nonsense. And in my experience, I've had way, way, way over 1,000 physical paranormal manifestations in my life. A lot of times other people have witnessed these manifestations. We've recorded them on film. We've videotaped them. We've caught them on camera. We've audio recorded them, so on and so forth. And all of this, I've not had a negative experience. I've not had a demonic experience. Mm-hmm. I've never conjured anything or attracted anything that I couldn't control or that was harmful or whatever. The problem that we have a knee-jerk reaction, and I think it's all religions, but Christianity in particular. We have this knee-jerk reaction that if it happens in the church while I'm sitting in the pew with the Bible open, it's okay. If it happens outside the church, it's malevolent, it's satanic, it's demonic, it's going to lead me astray or whatever, which is the furthest thing from the truth that there is. The Bible is full of the paranormal. There's floating iron axe heads. There's talking animals. There's all kinds of marvelous paranormal. There's burning bushes that don't burn up. The flame just does not consume the bush. And, on and on and on and on. So it's okay if it's within the context of what's there. If it's outside of that context, then it's bad. Then it's evil. Then it's no good. And that's the way we've been taught. So that's our default reaction. That's where we go. One of the things that people will have a knee-jerk reaction about is the Ouija board.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I have a whole chapter on how to use a Ouija board in this book. And I explain to people, I say, look, for one thing, talking boards or some facsimile thereof have been around forever and a day.
Yes.
People have used these things forever and a day.
Yes.
And the thing that you have to understand about the Ouija board, Ouija board, going to open a portal, going to get a demon, going to attract something. Yeah. What people never stop to think and understand is that, Tim, when you're using a Ouija board, you're using the exact same spiritual motive power to connect with an intelligent being, the other side, some energy or whatever, as you're using when you're reading a tarot card deck, gazing into a crystal ball, using dowsing rods, using a pendulum, using any of these things. It's the exact same motive energy. And you cannot argue with me on that. It is. I've studied this forever and a day. This has been my experience for over 50 years. I've read professionally. I've had all these experiences. I've studied everything there is on the planet in depth. You're using the exact same energy in the exact same manner as if you were reading tarot cards or using dowsing rods or anything else. It's just the Ouija board has this bad rap. Where does the bad rap come from? Primarily movies like The Exorcist.
Yeah.
We have this bizarre thing in the spiritual realm where we look at horror movies and we think that's the reality of interacting with the paranormal realm. Mm-hmm. And it's not. And what I teach people in this book, one of the things I teach people is how to connect with your spirit guides, your guardian angels, so on and so forth, so that they will help you. They will guide you. They will protect you. They will help you to connect with good things. And that's the reality of the spiritual realm. People are so confused and so scared that they're afraid to connect with anything spiritual, when in reality, we need that now more than ever. We need spiritual guidance. We need input from the other side. We need these spiritual intelligences or guardian angels, spirit guides. We need those to come and speak to us and help us and to guide us. And we need that more than ever. So there's nothing to be afraid of here. Unless you're got your pastor beating you over the head with the Bible saying, this isn't in the Bible, this is of the devil. That's the only thing to be afraid of. And there's nothing else here that you need to concern yourself with.
But John, how would you, and again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Sure, I love the fact that I bring up devil's advocate and a Ouija board in the same sentence. But how would you respond to somebody who says, but John, I understand you say it's all coming from the same energy, but bear with me here. Let me give you an example. Let me compare a Ouija board with different types of phones. Okay. So you've got a corded phone in the wall. You got a corded phone on a desk. You've got a satellite phone, a and a cell phone. Okay. So a satellite phone, a cell phone, a corded phone on the wall, a corded phone on a desk.
Right.
And, let me throw one other type of phone here. One other type of phone.
Payphone somewhere.
Payphone, and an old payphone, okay?
Old payphone.
We've got those 5 different types of phones. Now, the corded phones obviously are old analog phones.
Right.
There's a chance of some crosstalk there, but the crosstalk has to happen at a certain junction, okay?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
can be easily, figured out by a phone company.
Sure.
The satellite phone, sure, there can be some crosstalk, but that has to happen up in the sky with a satellite, and that can be easily figured out by a satellite company.
Correct.
But the cell phone is the Ouija board, John. The cell phone is the Ouija board, and the cell phone's a little more dangerous because that's RF talk, and that's easy to crosstalk. I can interfere with your cell phone at any time, and that's where the demon can come in, John. That's where the demon RF can come in, and it can crosstalk with you on that Ouija board that you're talking on. Right? Now, you can't argue with me on that one, can you, John?
Oh, absolutely, I can.
Oh, okay.
Because you have to first assume that there's this plethora of negative beings and negative energies out there just waiting to jump on everything and just waiting to interfere with everything and just waiting to mislead us and misguide us. And you also have to assume that these powerful, dangerous, malevolent, highly evolved and advanced intelligences can't manipulate a payphone or can't manipulate a corded phone, or they can only manipulate the cell phone. They're restricted to that. So taking that analogy further, these highly evolved, super intelligent, super powerful beings that are vastly, vastly evolved and more powerful than us are absolutely stymied by tarot cards or crystal balls or dowsing rods or pendulums, but boy, they can zap into that Ouija board. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense.
Very true. Yeah. I just figured I'd throw that one at you. But you passed that test. So that brings up another good question.
Yes.
When we bring up salt and sage to protect. Now, I've seen something very interesting. Having had the guys from the Legion of Exorcists on, and they had something on their program which I found very interesting. And I think it was Reverend Scott Johnson who was talking about how sage can backfire and how it can actually feed the spirits and get them angrier. I didn't know this. Now, this was new in my lexicon.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. And I've never actually sat down and talked to a psychic about it. Is there such a thing as a positive talisman like salt or sage turning negative that's supposed to be positive? Have you run into something like that in the psychic world?
No, I've never experienced that at all. And I have to tell you that there are so many people out there. And the Legion of Exorcists and this and that and the other and so on and so forth. And these people are operating basically off of dogma, tradition, and ritual. Mm-hmm. And the problem comes when they begin to state these things as a matter of fact, when in fact they're not. And I'll give you an anecdote, an illustration of that here in a moment. And everything they operates from a position of fear. And another thing that I've noticed over the years is among all the quote unquote exorcists and the demonologists and the this and that and the other, whatever, the interesting thing is their supposition, all of them, is that if demons exist, they're way more powerful than we are. Way more evolved, way more advanced. They're able to manipulate matter, thought, energy, this, that, and the other, so on and so forth. Why then do we think that we would have anything that would control these superior beings in the first place? Okay. If we wave a feather and go, boo, go away, how do we think that that's going to scare this incredibly powerful, infinite being that's way more evolved, way more advanced than we are? So I've never bought that. The other thing is, and one of the proofs, if you will, that demonologists and exorcists and so on and so forth use is that, oh man, there was this little slight woman and the spirit came on her and she talked strange and she became violent and it took 6 grown men to hold her down. She was a little bitty slight woman. That's proof of demonic energy and demonic power possessing this woman. When I was young, I've always read full time in addition to whatever other jobs I had until I finally just read full time, and that was it. That was all I did. But I had a job at a state school where there were people that were mentally retarded and had mental illness, and some of them were dual diagnosis. So they were exceedingly dangerous. Mm-hmm. And going into this job, we had this 2-week training session. Part of this training was we had to learn state-approved holds to get a hold of these people that were launching off and becoming violent and going crazy and trying to hurt people, and get a hold of them without harm to them or harm to ourselves and get them calmed down. So we had to act out in our training.
Okay.
And the instructors told us, okay, when it comes your turn, you are going to absolutely, with every bit of strength that you can possess, act out and try and tear up the room and hurt these people and do everything else possible to just become the Tasmanian devil in a whirling dervish. And then the rest of us, as part of this training, have to come in without harm to you or ourselves and restrain you till this episode passes. Guess what? A normal, sane, sound little woman undergoing this training, how many guys, how many grown men would it take to hold her down when she was thrashing with all her might? 6 grown men. So I began to learn through this process, look, and then you watch TV, you watch the cop shows, you watch the court shows, you watch the live cam shows, and you see these big, huge, gigantic, strapping, burly policemen. These guys look like linebackers. Mm-hmm. And there's some little small woman, and she's pissed off about something, and she's going nuts, and she's shaking the paper in everybody's hand, the faces, and yelling, and by God, you've done, and you've done me wrong, and this isn't right. And they're like, man, just leave, man, just leave. I ain't gonna leave. And she turns on them, and here it goes. And she goes after these big, huge linebacker cops. And in the videos, it takes 3, 4, 5 big, huge linebacker cops to come get this little woman and get her subdued and either put her in jail or get her out of there. Okay. So we have all this crazy nonsense that we equate. It's a false equivalency. And we equate that, with what's really happening and what's going on. So, the things that we see, we misconstrue and we misinterpret. And we view everything through the eyeglasses of dogma, tradition, and ritual, instead of going and saying, okay, let me strip all that away and let's figure out what the truth is here. And then that's where we have to go. That's what we have to examine. And that's what we have to deal with. And unfortunately, the people that are out there now, the shows that are out there now, it's entertainment value. It's to spook people, scare people, titillate people, and put butts in the seats in front of the TV so that advertising revenue increases. And that's all it is. It is not a realistic view of interaction with the other side. It just simply isn't.
Very true. I mean, well, yeah. in the end, you got to make money if you're
That's it. That's it.
Network.
And as we have noticed here this year, one of the biggest in the industry got called out for faking things on his show.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go. Let's get back to the book here. There's some interesting things here. One of the things I'm gonna hit you with a controversial take here. Are you ready?
You bet.
Okay.
Let's go.
Are you strapped in?
I love it.
The pronunciation of tarot.
Tarot.
That's right. You say tarot. It seems like the fancy way to say it is tarot. Everyone is saying tarot.
Or tarot.
Oh, no. It's not tarot. It may be a
There have
carrot.
been people that have pronounced it tarot.
Who is saying tarot?
In all kinds of ways. And like I write in the book, that's one of the things, believe it or not, that I get asked most often as a psychic. How do you pronounce this? And it's like, I don't care. Just pronounce it. It doesn't matter. I say tarot because that's what I grew up with. That's what I learned. I don't care if you say tarot or tarot or tarot or tarot or I don't care how you pronounce it.
So how do you say it officially, John?
I say it tarot.
You say tarot? Okay.
I say tarot. Yeah.
Okay. Because that's how I was corrected as saying it that way back in 2006. I always used to say tarot, but no, there's no, it's tarot.
Tarot. Yeah.
So that's how I started saying it back in 2006.
And I say sometimes tarot. It just depends on who I'm talking to, the mood I'm in, and how many bourbons I've had. So,
there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
When it comes to the tarot cards.
The tarot cards.
You point out something very astutely with tarot cards.
Right.
That it is truly the person manipulating the card, so to speak, not the card itself. Why do we put so much weight into what the cards say?
Well, I do point out that I do believe the cards have an intrinsic energy and value inherent to them.
Okay.
The analogy that I give is when I was growing up, when I was a kid, we were poor, and I had all these old beater junker cars, just one used beater after the other that barely ran. But I began to notice something. If I took that old beater and I spent the afternoon washing it and waxing it and vacuuming it out and cleaning the windows really, really well, that for a week or two, it actually literally ran better. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was like, holy cow. And I said, maybe this is just me. And I asked my friends, I said, I got something strange to ask you. And they were like, no, we've noticed that too. So then I began to develop this concept or understand this concept that things have an intrinsic intelligence or energy or soul or spirit or whatever. Now, bear with me there because, look, I'm not saying it's a human intelligence. Right. I'm just saying it's an intelligence and energy and understanding, something that's there. My little dog's so smart that we have to spell in front of him, and now he's learned to spell. So we can no longer spell because even now we spell and he goes nuts. So that's an intelligence. It's not a human intelligence, but It's an intelligence. Right. So I've always maintained that things like crystal balls, tarot cards, dowsing rods, so on and so forth, have an inherent ability or energy or an intelligence or whatever. So on their own, they possess that. And then we come along and it's a tango. We have our abilities and we merge with that ability and it creates yet another thing, another form of something that we can do, that we can manipulate, that we can gain information from, that we can change our environment with. So I think all things have these abilities, these inherent abilities or energies.
If I come along and, as you put it before, I'm dead as a stone, and then you come along and you've got much more considerable abilities than I have, and we're playing with the same deck, which has its intrinsic ability. Am I bound to cast different cards than you are and maybe change somebody's future?
No, we all go through this learning curve, and the other side kind of has some firewalls in place, if you will, some checks and balances in place, that if you're serious about gaining spiritual knowledge and exercising spiritual power, the other side's going to be watching over you, and they're going to see what you're going to do with the things that you're learning and the tools that you have, and they're going to watch over that so you don't mess things up. Okay. Number one. And number two, the rare occasion happens where somebody that's a neophyte comes along and the other side just throws out a really phenomenally powerful easy to read thing for them that's really accurate for whoever they're reading for, and it really clicks and it really works. And that should be impetus to say, okay, I've got to study this. I've got to work at this. I've got to get good at this. I've studied my entire life, 50 plus years, and I've never stopped studying. I've never stopped working at it. But, the neophyte can get that little bit of boost or luck or whatever it is, but that doesn't continue. Then you got to work for that. Then you got to move forward with that. And then that's why you go to somebody that has more experience, such as myself, and you can say, well, I was doing this reading and I felt this and it turned out wrong. And well, what happened here? And I can tell you, okay, this is where you went wrong. This is what happened. So it's a wonderful thing, this learning and this spiritual experience and experimenting with all these things, because it's this tremendous growth process and this opportunity for this marvelous connection with the universe, with the cosmic forces, with the other side, with our spirit guides, with our guardian angels. And it can lead us to really marvelous places. Like for myself, my life has literally, not figuratively, but literally been saved many times because of my interaction and listening to my guardian angels. And that's in this book. That's where I want to take everybody. I want to get everybody there and say, look, you may not become a professional psychic. You may not go out and heal the masses, and you may not change this and that at will, but it's going to make your life better if you apply it. And you're going to live better. You're going to be guided well. You're going to understand things better. You're going to be able to influence and manipulate some things to your benefit. And that's the goal. That's the thing.
I want to ask you a question about whether you can misinterpret your intuition. Because I think, there's times where we fight. We consciously fight against our intuition. And,
sure.
And now a lot of times we will fight our intuition when it comes to things like greed. Okay. So we know we got a business deal. Our intuition's telling us, you know what? I don't think that's the deal that we want.
Good. Yeah.
Not so good. We're probably in trouble if we take that deal. But you know what? I really want this deal. I really think I can do it. I think I can make it something. So we take it anyways.
Yep.
Things like that.
It's not so much that we can't discern our intuition or that we can't find or listen to our intuition. It's that we subjugate our intuition. Because like you were saying, oh man, I know this may not be the best thing, but in the short term, I can make a ton of money here real quick. And then I can get on down the road to something else. And your intuition is going, no. So our problem becomes not that we can't access it, not that we can't listen to it and understand it, but that we battle it with our egos. Because with our ego, well, here's this gal over here, and she's 5'6", and she's got a few extra pounds, and she's not the sophisticated whatever, but intuitively, this gal's going to have your back forever. She's going to be perfect in bed. She's going to be perfect in life. She's going to be perfect on the porch swing and everything else, sitting out and watching the sunset. But over here's this 5'9" gal, and man, she's super curvaceous and blonde, blue-eyed, and all this and all that, magnetic personality, and that's what I think I should want. And your intuition is telling you no, because that's a flash in the pan. It's really hot. It's really good looking. It's what everybody wants. But this gal over here is what you need.
Yeah.
And so it becomes an ego process. And we have to learn that the other side is going to guide us, not to what necessarily we want, but to what we need. And that's where the frustration comes in all of this, in listening to our intuition, listening to our spirit guides, receiving guidance. And people will go to 5, 10, 15 different psychics until they find one that tells them what they want to hear. I had 2 examples of that. Way back decades ago, I was sponsored, paid to go to this private meeting in Dallas-Fort Worth, and I held this for a select group of people. And one of the people that came to me was the costume designer for Walker, Texas Ranger.
Oh.
So we were doing the reading, and we got through the reading. She agreed it was a great reading. She said, we all do this every day. And I'm like, what? She said, me and the people in the office, every day we go, okay, it's lunchtime. Let's go see another new psychic. Who are we going to go see today? And I was like, you're kidding me. She said, no, we just do it for fun. She said, your reading has been real. It's been really great. But we just do this for fun. We just go to some new psychic. Every time there's a new psychic, we go see a new psychic. I was like, oh, my God. And then this other lady I had as a client, she told me one time as we were doing a reading, and I kind of questioned her about something that I'd told her, and things were like a little hinky there, and my radar went off, and I started talking to her about this. She had, including me, 6 or 8 different psychics. She had a psychic she used for her money. She had a psychic she used for her love life. She had a psychic she used for vacations and travel. I was like, my God, no wonder you're confused.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's essential that we get down to the meat and potatoes of finding the person that works for us, that is accurate for us, that we can relate to, and that our intuition works together well with, and you stick with that. You don't go shopping around for entertainment. You don't go shopping around for joy or for kicks or whatever. Oh, look, a new psychic just opened up on 3rd Street. Let's go. You don't do that. And the problem is, out in the spiritual realm, and I've bitched about this my entire life, is not only are there a lot of fakes and frauds and phonies out there, and I'm writing about that in the new book and how to avoid those, but there are people that approach readings. They may have a little bit of legitimate ability, a little bit of legitimate talent, but they approach readings through the glasses of what they were taught, or their particular religious viewpoint, or spiritual or psychic viewpoint, or paranormal viewpoint, and then everything they tell you is going to come filtered through that instead of what the other side tells you. I tell my clients, you may not like my readings because I'm not going to tell you what you want. I'm going to tell you what the other side gives me for you that you need. Yeah. And I'm going to deliver it to you the exact way they tell it to me to give it to you. And that's what you're going to get. And that's what you need to look for when you get a psychic reading. And that's what you need to look for when you interact with your own intuition is, I'd rather have this gal over here, but my intuition is telling me this is the gal that's going to have my back for the rest of my life. We're going to be happy. We're going to have a great time together. This is the deal I want over here with all the money and this and that, even though the guy's a little shady. And my intuition is telling me, no, wait 6 months. And something really good is going to connect with you. And so it's a constant battle between the ego and our temptations against the intuition. And that's the only real problem we have. It's not a problem to listen to our intuition, get that guidance. The problem is subjugating our ego to that guidance.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, John, and this is the last question I'll ask before break here, is this. Can someone become so wrapped up in seeing different psychics for different things that they lose their own intuition? They become so dependent on a psychic or a medium that that's just it? They lose their intuition altogether?
Absolutely. And it's not so much as a loss as it is a subjugating. You throw a blanket over it and you can't hear it anymore because you're hearing all these other divergent voices. And you got one voice telling you this, you got one voice telling you that, you got one voice telling you the other. And before we go to break real quick, let me get this in if I can. I had a client, 2 clients. They were a couple of ladies that came to me, and they always told me, they said, when we want the real answer, the honest to God truth, who are we going to go to? John Russell. And I was like, I appreciate that, because I always tell people how it is. Mm-hmm. So they sent me a friend of theirs for a reading. And I told this lady, I said, your marriage with your husband is over. I said, it's done and gone, and you need to get on down the road and acknowledge that. So we went on through the reading, and I told her that several more times, and she seemed very pleased with the reading. She didn't seem upset. She asked me, she said, are you really sure about this? This is what you're really saying? And I said, yes, it is. So we got through the reading, and then here, I guess a few weeks later, my two women friends, when we need the truth, we go to John. They called me and they said, we got to talk to you about this gal's reading. I said, I can't do that. The readings are confidential. No. We're going to tell you what transpired, what she said. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. So they said, when she got through with your reading, she called us and she was livid. And I said, what? I said, with me, she was perfectly calm, perfectly happy, satisfied with the reading and blah, blah, blah. And she said, no. So she called us and she was like, this guy's just got to be wrong. My marriage is not on the rocks. It's going to be safe. And she said, John, we counted. This is not an exaggeration. We literally counted. And she went to 15 different psychics. 15. And all of them told her, no. This guy was wrong. Your husband's going to come back. He's going to change your mind. His mind. Your marriage is going to be saved. It's not on the rocks. Everything's fine. And they said, John, he filed for divorce this week.
Oh.
So there is the truth, whether you want to hear it or not.
Yep.
And then they're shopping around till you hear somebody that'll tell you what you want to hear.
Yep.
And that's when your life gets in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh. Yeah, and with that, we'll start to head to break here. The book is 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. Our guest is John Russell. And when we come back, we'll talk to you a little bit about some of the things that you can start to work on and some of the things that, let's just say, are things that are not so psychic, but are everyday things that can help you, even if you think you're not psychic or don't have a psychic bone in your body. One of them has just to do with everyday healing. I want to talk to John about some things that, let's just say, some of us who are a little, how should we put it, health challenged can get into, and start,
good description.
Yeah, health challenged can do right away to help improve our lives. We'll put it that way. John Russell is our guest. When we come back, we'll talk about what we can do to just start getting our lives better for the back half of 2023. When we come back, you're listening to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. But first, folks, when we come back, more with John Russell, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. It's coming up next with John Russell right here on Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Our guest is John Russell, psychic medium, author of the book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. So, John, before the break, I teased that even if you don't have a psychic bone in your body, there are some psychic things you can do to improve your life on the back half of 2023.
Absolutely.
One of those things is just plain healing. I know both you and I have had some issues in 2023. What's one of those things that we can do to kind of keep ourselves healthy even when we're not feeling so well?
Well, I think the main thing that I try and stress to my clients and stress to everyone in the interviews and in my books is you have to find out what's unique to you. And then you got to practice that. Now, what do I mean by that? I have a diet regimen and a drinking regimen that would probably kill most of the average people on the planet. It works for me.
Okay.
My doctors are astounded. My blood tests are always textbook normal. My other tests are always textbook normal. They're great tests for a healthy person in their 20s, and they're like, and I'm going to be 70 next year. Mm-hmm. And they just shake their heads and they just don't understand how it's possible. Well, the first thing I do, I found out what works for me diet-wise, and I do that. So we're all kind of an experiment of one in that regard. So it's not a one size fits all thing. You kind of have to find out what works for you, and then you practice that, regardless of what some guru on TV says or what some diet doctor or some health expert, quote unquote, says. You find out what works for you and you practice that. The next thing that you can do, there's a lot of things that we can do to help manifest better health for ourselves. Meditation, yoga, whatever exercise we can do, whether it's bicycle riding, swimming, running, whatever, weightlifting. One of the greatest things we can do for ourselves is to stay in motion.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, people tout all kinds of supplements and this and that and the other. People need to understand, now, use what works for you, yeah, but you need to understand, just because something is quote unquote natural doesn't mean it's safe. Mm-hmm. There are natural things in the world that are from nature. They're not man-made. They don't have anything added to them. They don't have any chemicals or preservatives or whatever that I cannot use because of my particular heart condition.
Yeah.
If I were to ingest these things, I'd be in the ER. I'd be in the emergency room.
Yep.
So we have to understand that. Yep. We have to look at things that, and we can't look for the magic pill, the magic bullet, the magic button, the magic wand. There are just certain things that we have to deal with on this planet. We're in these biomechanical machines, and we have to figure out, okay, what works for me in this biomechanical machine, and these biomechanical machines are subject to certain things, whether we like it or not. Just like the law of gravity, you may disagree with it, go jump off a building, you're going to go splat. Okay.
Very true.
Now, beyond these things, there are spiritual healing techniques and methods that we can use, and I touch on this in my book. And one of the greatest books that I have found for this, there's a book I recommend in my book, and the title of it is The Art of True Healing. And I've recommended this book forever today, and I use the techniques in this book, and it's one of the things that's kept me going throughout the years. So there are things that we can do, and people say, well, is this something that just is makes me adopt a positive attitude or positive outlook, or energizes my chakras, or makes me feel better, or makes me optimistic? No. The technique in this book, if you do it correctly and apply it correctly, has to do with spiritual healing for physical conditions. Mm-hmm. And I had a client call me that had a long story short. We won't go into the length of it because it is rather lengthy, but this client called me that had stage 4 cancer, been told by her doctor, you've got 2 weeks, go home, get your affairs in order, and called me to learn how to die.
Oh, wow.
And so I told him, I said, well, number one, I don't see that it's your time to die. Mm-hmm. Number two, the other side tells me for you to use the regimen in this book, Art of True Healing, the middle pillar exercise, told me to tell them how often to use this, how many times a day, and for what length. And I said, if you'll do this for 6 months, your hair, your weight, your appetite will be back. You'll be back to work. If you continue with what the other side has given me for you, in a year's time, you'll be completely free. So in 6 months, they called me. They said, my hair's back, my weight's back, my appetite's back, I'm back at work. And I said, now remember, the other side told me that you got to do this for a year. And if you do that, you'll be okay. So at the end of the year, they called me back and said, John, I would have given my eye teeth if you could have been in the doctor's office with me, because here's this man that sent me home a year ago with 2 weeks to live, go home and die. And he came in, he sat down, and he just stared at me for a long time. And I'm like, what? And he said, we have run every test on you known to man. And he said, not only do you not have cancer, you don't have any markers left in your blood to indicate that you ever had cancer. So spiritual healing for physical illnesses is possible. And that's what I want to get across to people, get people to have faith, get people to understand. All healing begins in the mind. What if what John's saying is right? What if this book could work for me? Mm-hmm. What if? Let's try it.
Yeah. And
then you go from there. Everything begins in our minds. Everything begins with that acceptance. So that's one of the things that we can do to focus on healing. And I told this person, I said, look, you're going to have days that you're going to have a step forward and 3 steps back. And you're going to curse God You're going to curse John Russell. You're going to curse your husband. You're going to curse everybody on the planet. You're going to curse the doctor. That's fine. That's good. Do it. Next day, get up, get back to the regimen, get back to the healing. And at some point, it gathers momentum and it gains force and it gains power and it'll work. And she took it to heart and she did it. And voila, there you go. So that's one of the things that we can do.
I know in past years, I've been a huge proponent of Diamond Dallas Page and his DDP yoga program. And one of the things that Dallas really focuses on, and he tells people, he said, you know what, I'm not a yay, rah, rah positivity type of guy, but he preaches positivity. And he says, you know, you can put your best foot forward and 1 foot forward and be positive without being over the top positive.
Exactly.
And the way he puts it is this. And I recently told this to a friend who was going through a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
I said, if you wake up in the morning and you say, today, I'm okay if I just get up and I breathe.
Yeah.
If I just get up and get through the day and I breathe. And at the end of the day, I say, you know what? I made it.
I made it.
Yeah.
I made it.
And you can pat yourself on the back.
That's a lot of it, you know, and we all face struggles and obstacles and difficulties. And that makes us want to give up. And it makes us think we're doing something wrong, or it makes us think we have a curse or dark forces or demons around us or whatever. Look, you can be on this planet doing the right thing for your life in the right place at the right time, and you're still going to have obstacles. You're still going to have difficulties. You're still going to have problems to overcome. That is the way of this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do, I saw the most beautiful thing on Facebook today. It said, if you got up and all you had to give was 40% today, not 100%, all you could give was 40%. But you gave that 40%, you gave 100%.
That's right.
And that's true. And that's what we have to think every day. Every day we have to get up. And one of the things that keeps me going, my wife tells me, it's so funny. She looks at me and she goes, you know, in spite of all the health, I've had more health problems than anybody on the planet going back to a kid. If I give you the list of everything that's wrong with me, none of you'd believe it. And my wife told me one day, she said, you know, you're going to outlive all of us. And I said, you're probably right, because here's my thing. And this is what I encourage everybody to do. Get up every day and fight. Mm-hmm. Get up every day and believe. Mm-hmm. Get up every day. It doesn't matter how you feel. Keep going. Realize, okay, I feel like crap today. I'll feel better tomorrow.
That's right.
Get up and strive. Get up and do everything for yourself that you can. Have a goal. Have a purpose. Have a meaning. Keep striving. Keep going. Keep fighting. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. I don't care if the doctor comes to you and says you got a week to live. Screw you. I'm going out and having a good meal. I'm having a drink. I'm going watching a movie. And I'm living. I'm going on. Mm-hmm. So one of my favorite scriptures, not that I'm a big Bible supporter, believe in the Bible, even though I'm an ordained minister and was an associate pastor of a small church for a while. But one of my favorite scriptures in there is, I shall not die, but live and sing praises to my God. Mm-hmm. And that's what I tell myself all the time. It's like, look, no. I ain't going down. I ain't dying. I may be sick today, but I'm going to be well tomorrow. I may have problems today, but I'm going to be well tomorrow. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trucking. And in a sense, you have to become selfish, not to the point that you take advantage of other people or exclude other people, but you have to say, I got to go meditate now. I got to go pray now. I got to go work on my healing now. Yep. I got to do this thing. I got to do that thing. Yep. If you're going to be successful in anything, you have to be a little selfish. If you're going to be an artist, got to tell your friends, yeah, I'd like to go to the bar with you, but I got to go home and paint. I got to get these paintings out, get ready for this gallery show. As a writer, as an author, I tell my wife, I got to go in my office, sit my butt down and write. This book ain't going to get published by itself. I got to put the words in there. You have to be a little selfish. You have to take care of yourself. Yep. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else.
That's right.
And that's one of the most important lessons we have to learn.
That's right. That's right. And I encourage people to, you're listening to a couple guys right now who, let's face it, we're both beat up. We're both beat up, but we're both putting our best foot forward every single day. And we don't look for accolades for it. But if you need an example, you got two right in front of you.
You got two right in front of you.
That's right. That are just trying to put the best foot forward every single day. And
you just keep going. Keep going. And you don't listen to the naysayers, and you don't listen to the doomsayers, and you don't listen to the negative voices. You know, you say, hey, No. What if? What if I can feel better? What if I can be healed? What if I can keep going? What if I can conquer this? What if there's some tools and techniques out there I can find, I can learn, and I can overcome this? That has to be your mindset.
That's right. That's right. And there's always hope in every single corner. Whenever you turn the corner, there's always some hope somewhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's go through some more of the things out there that you can change every single day. Here's one that I find intriguing because I hear this all the time from different friends, from different listeners, from people all around the world, John, and it's this. Oh, Tim, everywhere I look, I just can't seem to find anybody. Nobody loves me. I just, I've been at this for so long.
Yep.
That perfect person is nowhere to be found. I'm just destined to be alone.
Yep. I have a chapter in my book for you. It's called The Way to Attract the Perfect Mate. And this is something that the other side taught me and that I've taught to my clients over the years. And the first thing that we need to understand, Tom Cruise, MF, handsome, muscular, rich, smart son of a gun, blockbuster, action hero, does all his own stunts, just a god in the flesh. Nicole Kidman, gorgeous, sexy, beautiful, wealthy, smart. They couldn't hold that marriage together.
Nope.
So we have to understand, look, relationships are difficult. You say, well, if I had his money, if I had her looks, if I had their opportunities, if I had their abilities, no, because they had it and they couldn't hold it together.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to understand, number one, relationships are hard, period. End of discussion. Relationships are hard. They're difficult to come by. They're hard to keep. They're hard to maintain and sustain. We have to understand that. We got to get out of the mindset of the Disney movie that we watched when we were a kid, that Prince Charming comes along and the princess looks at him and, their eyes lock and their hearts flutter and boom, happily ever after. That does not exist.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to get out of that mindset. We have to understand that relationships are hard. Romance is hard. Attracting the right person is hard. And then in my book, I tell you exactly how to go about doing this. The first part of it is knowing yourself. We think we know ourselves. We don't know ourselves. We have no clue who we are. If I were to take 10 people and ask them what's the number one defining thing that you've got to have in a relationship for that relationship to work, love. Okay. And if I take each one of those 10 people, take them off in a separate room and ask them individually, how do you know you're loved? Well, she's waiting in a negligee and some high heels when I come home from work, and boom. The next person says, I come in, there's dinner on the table. Boom. The third person comes in and says, we plan things special together. All these different definitions of how I know that I'm loved, how I feel that I'm loved. So we have to know ourselves first and foremost. How do I know when I'm in a relationship where I feel loved and where the love I want to give is accepted? What's the circumstances and the conditions for that? Write that down. Understand that. Get in touch with that. Be real about that. Another thing I teach people is, if we're honest, we all have that height, weight, eye color, hair color. We all have that range. Be honest with yourself. If blue eyes and blonde hair turn you on, don't date gals that are brown-eyed and dark-haired. Don't do it. Be honest to yourself. Be true to yourself. Work through these parameters and learn yourself and deal with these things. And then I go through the whole gamut in teaching people how to do this. And it's religious compatibility, political compatibility, financial compatibility, physical compatibility, not just sex, but do you like to hike? Do you like to camp? Do you like to bicycle race? Do you like to run? Blah, 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 blah. There's all these things that we have to consider, and we don't. We go to the bar, we see this hot gal. I'm speaking from a guy perspective, but vice versa. We see this hot gal, we go, oh, look at that, look at that. Oh, hot dang. And this gal's the absolute diametric opposite of what we need in our lives.
Yeah.
But we've got that attraction. We've got that mindset. We've got that thing. So the first thing I do is teach people how to learn yourself, how to know yourself, how to know what you really do want and what you really do need. And so that's where it begins. And then I teach you in this book how to construct that. And then I explain to you why it works. We spend our entire life programming ourselves. And we have this mindset of, I have to have this, or I want this, or I need that, or society says I need this. Mom and dad said I should look for this type of person, blah, 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 blah. And what we have to do is get past all of that, get down to the real nitty gritty. And I tell you step by step how to do that in the book. And then once we get to that nitty gritty, we utilize a technique to reprogram ourselves so that we reprogram not only our subconscious and conscious minds, so that we begin to attract those qualities that we truly, really want and need, but we also change the energy that's around us, the aura, the energy that we exude, so that we begin to attract and mesh with the right kind of people. It's as easy as that, and it's as hard as that, but that's how you do it.
There's one thing too, before you begin to attract that person, that's really important. And I want to stick the landing on this deal. And that is the list of compromises.
Yeah.
What you will compromise.
Exactly.
That's one thing that isn't done in today's relationships.
Right.
It's me, I want, this has to be this person has to do this. They have to fill this. They have to do that. But I never hear people say, but I'm willing to do this.
To compromise. Yeah.
That's right.
And I tell people in the book, I say, look, when you're making that list of compromises, and we both have to compromise in a relationship, and when you're making that list, be honest with that list. Don't be afraid that you're going to lose the 5'9", blonde-haired, blue-eyed beauty if you stick to this compromise, because otherwise it's going to come back to bite you in the butt. Yeah. And you have to be honest about the compromises. And I teach you how to do that in the book. But you're exactly right. We have to compromise, but we have to compromise in a realistic way. Yeah. And if your compromise is something that's causing you heartache and grief and sorrow, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you're inflexible and unyielding and unwilling to help the other person meet their needs and experience what they need to emotionally, then you're doing it wrong. So in this book, I teach you how to do that. We get around all those situations. I tell you how to do it and how to put it into practice. And I think it's going to help a lot of people if they will practice it. And, you know, all the way through they find their perfect mate.
There you go. There you go. Let me ask you this, and this is kind of an offshoot of finding that perfect mate. You talk about candle magic in this particular book. One of the things that I've heard about in the past is a love spell with candles. Do you talk about that in Candle Magic?
You know, I talk about how to utilize candle magic to change life circumstances, to make your life better and to do things. You can do that, but you have to realize in using any type of magic, you have to know yourself. And one of the examples I give in my book is that let's say you're going to use candle magic to increase your salary. Oh, you're making $30,000, you want to make $75,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So you're going to use candle magic to do that. So you cast the spell and you're diligent about it. You do it exactly right, and it doesn't work. Why? Because you're an asshole that hates your customers, and you're rude, and you have no patience, and you're a jerk. You can do candle magic from now till the cows come home. It's not going to affect things in a positive way till you change who you are. Mm-hmm. So you've got to realize, oh, well, maybe the candle magic I need to be doing here is I need to focus on myself and on positive change for who I am and what I am, and get to the point that I actually care for my customers and their needs, and I actually want to serve them. And then when you've done that, boom, now go cast the magic for, I want to make $75,000 this year, and that'll become realistic. But we have these short circuits built in when we utilize magic. If we don't know ourselves and we're not true and honest with ourselves and we're not working with that, magic's going to work against that. It's going to be null and void because, look, you've got a situation here that you have to change before you can bring this other thing into being. And so I talk about that, tell you how to do that in the book as well. There's a lot of honest self-examination that you have to do when you're increasing psychic abilities, utilizing magic, working with these things. You have to be real honest with this.
And I guess the last thing I want to talk about today with you, John, before we talk about the new project, because we want to get to that before we leave people today, is people will say, the most basic thing that I can think of, John, when I'm sitting at home is I've lost a loved one.
Right.
And even if I don't have a psychic bone in my body, I want to know at least that I can get a sign from out there in the universe from them.
Yes.
Or even have them appear in a dream. It's either one or the other. Either they, I see a loved one in a butterfly that flies by, or I get a feather that drops in front of me. You're getting some sort of a sign. Right. Can I manifest something?
Yes.
What's the easiest way to manifest a sign from a loved one that's passed?
Pay attention. There's so many people that receive signs from their deceased loved ones. An aroma, a sound, a favorite song, a feather comes dropping down in front of whatever, and it has a special meaning. And they discount it. They ignore it. They say, oh, that's my imagination. That's my wishful thinking. That's coincidence. Don't do that, because you're short-circuiting that communication. And that communication is there if we'll take time to pause, to listen for it, to ask for it, to be receptive to it, and then to believe it and be thankful when it comes. It's there, but it's a process, and we can't ignore it. We can't poo-poo it. We can't write it off to coincidence. We have to say, okay, here came this aroma that I used to identify with my grandmother. And you don't say, oh, that must be a hallucination, or there must be something wafting in from down the street or whatever. No, that was your grandmother's aroma that she's communicating to you. Be thankful for that. Take that and say, grandmother, thank you for being here. Thank you for communicating that to me. Thank you for letting me know that you're alive and well on the other side, and you remember me, and you're coming to me, and you think about me, and you care about me still. Thank you. And that leads to the opening of more receptivity, more experiences, and more validation that our loved ones live on and come to us from the other side.
How do you respond to somebody who says, well, I'm trying to think of the best way to give you this example. Say you're sitting somewhere and you're with a friend, and grandma always comes by with as a butterfly. And you think that grandma comes by as a butterfly, and magically a butterfly comes up and sits in front of you. You're like, oh my gosh, that's grandma.
That's grandma. Give me a sign. Yeah.
Yeah. And the friend goes, well, one butterfly is impressive, but if a second one comes up, well, then I'll believe it's grandma.
See, that's our problem. That's exactly like when we do paranormal investigations and we go into a place and we set up a REM pod. Mm-hmm. And we go, if there's a spirit here, a being, an intelligence that can communicate with me, set the REM pod off. Bah! The REM pod goes off. Big time, huge, monster.
Yeah.
And what do? Do it again. 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 Can you do it again?
Like a little kid, yeah.
Like a little kid.
Yeah.
Ask for what you want to receive and believe and be grateful for it when you receive it. And don't impinge on the other side's energies. People on the other side have limited energies and abilities to communicate through to us, just like we have limited energies and abilities. A guy that's just run a marathon and won the marathon, you're not going to go to him and say, hey, let's go for a jog, man.
Yeah,
You don't do that.
Yeah.
You got to understand and believe skeptics. If they want to see, well, I got a butterfly, but now I want 3 butterflies and then I'll believe. They're never going to believe. 3 butterflies will come. Well, give me 5 butterflies. It's unending. It goes on and on and on. So this is one of the things I'll talk about in my book, as a matter of fact, is signs and asking for signs and receiving those signs. And when you get that, accept it. Don't second guess it. Don't go back on it. Don't go off on some other course. Take that sign, believe in it, accept it, relish it, enjoy in it, and move on from there. But don't keep asking over and over and over, because the other side will get tired of you. And they'll either pull back or start playing pranks on you.
Yeah, it's a fine line, I think. We want to we want to make sure that what we're getting is what we're getting, but at the same time, you don't want to discount what it is that you have.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know what I'm talking about.
And you got that becomes a matter of faith. And when you go, and I explain this in my book, it's like, okay, I'm going to ask for a certain specific thing as a sign. And if I receive that within 2 days, I'll accept this job. And you leave it at that. And either that sign comes and you accept that job, or the sign doesn't come, you say, okay, it's not the time to move on.
Yeah.
And that's, again, where you have to subjugate your will, your ego, and all of that, and say, okay, if I'm going to ask for a sign, the other side is going to give me a sign. The answer may be no. Am I prepared to accept no?
Yeah.
So we have to understand that, and we have to accept that. The other side sees a lot further down the road than we do. And if we're going to say, hey, I need this, I want this, but if it's not good for me, then let's don't do it. And the other side may say, no, this is not good for you right now. This is not what you need right now. I remember I had my wife and I'd been trying to get on TV for a long time because I saw these shows and I was like, man, this is so much bunk, and I'd love to get on TV and be able to present what it really is like to communicate with the other side and how it really is. And I prayed for that, and I prayed for that. So my wife and I went on a cruise, and we came back, and there was a letter from, I can't remember, his name was either David Hockenberry or John Hockenberry. He was a guy that did like 48 Hours, one of those primetime news shows on TV at night that came on like at 9 o'clock. So here was a letter from Hockenberry. Mm-hmm. An email to me when we got back from the cruise. And it was like, I want to interview you for this show, 48 Hours, whatever it was, right?
Yep.
I was like, oh my God, I'm jumping up and down. I'll call my wife. I said, look at this. Here's my chance to go on nationwide TV in front of hundreds of thousands of viewers and say, look, this is what it's really like. And we got down to the end of the email, and we were back from the cruise 3 days too late to be interviewed.
Oh.
And I looked at I talked to the guys on the other side. I call them my guys affectionately. And I said, guys, what in the world, man? This is what I've been hoping and praying for and wanting. And here you just jerk it out from under me. What the heck? And the only thing they would tell me, and the only way they would say it, was just wait. You're going to be so glad you didn't get this. And I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. This is what I've been asking for. This is what I've been praying for. Here's a national opportunity to go on TV and say, look, just like 20 ways to increase your psychic abilities. Here it really is. Here's how you can improve your life. Da-da-da-da-da. And all they would say was, just wait. You're going to be so glad you didn't get this. And I was like, oh, my God. So about 2-3 weeks later, on a Saturday, bright, sunny Saturday, I'm laying in bed, watching TV, flipping through the channels. And here comes Hockenberry interviewing John Edward. And I'm like, well, for Christ's sake, and I'm just yelling at my guys now. I'm saying, like, John Edward's got New York Times bestselling book. He's got he didn't need this.
Yeah.
I need this.
Yeah.
What in the world? They're silent. So I raise the volume on the TV and I start watching the interview. Hockenberry does everything in his power to make John Edward look like the biggest fraud, charlatan, phony, fake, con artist on the planet that there ever was. And I was like, oh my God, that would have been me up there with Hockenberry. That would have been my introduction to the world. That would have been what everybody saw of me. And the guys went, told you was going to be glad you missed this. So we have to understand, if we're going to rely on guidance, they see further down the road than we do. We may not understand the yeses. We may not understand the nos. But if we're going to exercise faith, we have to commit ourselves to that and say, okay, I don't get it, but I'm going with it. And then down the road, we may learn the reason why, we may not.
Yeah.
But we have to keep going. We have to keep moving forward in faith.
That's right. That's right. So I want to talk to you about this new project, John.
Oh boy.
This
there's a
new book called The Crying Tree and the Magic Rock. Now you're going about it a little bit of a non-traditional way, which it's I shouldn't say it's non-traditional, but it's not unheard of.
Right.
Now a lot of authors are taking a non-traditional route and they're doing self-publishing.
Yeah.
And what you've chosen to do is to go the GoFundMe route. or and having like a Kickstarter, GoFundMe. You're going through GoFundMe.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're doing different levels of funding. And with that, if you choose to donate, you get you have a supporter level, you have an ally level, advocate, champion, and hero level with the book. Right. And as you donate to the different levels, people get different things with it.
Exactly.
And different incentives. We'll call it different incentives.
Exactly.
With their donation. And you've got it's a modest goal for self-publication. It's only $2,500. That's it. To self.
And I'll tell you, Tim, why I've done that. I've been a self-published author all the way through, and I'm glad I've done that because I don't get backlisted. I don't get remaindered. I didn't have an editor come with a red pencil and go, well, I don't believe in this. I'll take this out and we're going to publish it that way. So I didn't have to deal with any of that. I got to write it exactly as I wanted to write it, and it's in print forever. So my first 2 books and this book that's out now, they're going to be in print forever and a day. They won't be remaindered. They won't be backlisted and so on and so forth. And they represent my authenticity, the truth of what I wanted to communicate and how I wanted to communicate it. The reason I went to self-publishing, now back in the day, self-publishing was bad because it was grandma's zucchini recipes, and that was typical of self-publishing. Yep. That's not the case nowadays. There are many, many famous self-published authors. Yep. James Patterson went to self-publishing because he said, you know what? Screw these guys. I'm going to keep all this money for myself. I'm going to go publish it myself. Right. So there's a lot of good in self-publishing now. So I went that way primarily because I sent in the first manuscript of my first book, Writing with Ghost Angels and the Spirits of the Dead. I sent that to New York agents, New York publishers, and I got great feedback. Really good feedback. This is good writing. Some people said it was great writing. Some people said it was really compelling. And then they said, but I'm scared to death of the paranormal. Or I believe in the paranormal, but I don't want other people in the industry to know that I believe in the paranormal. Or I'm not sure I believe in the paranormal. I don't want to get involved with this. After enough of that, I said, you know what? This book is important enough. I got to get it out there. I'm going to publish it myself. Right. So I did that, continued forward. I was doing better financially at the time. So I footed the bill for all of my books up to this point. With this book, like you, and you'll understand this, having encountered a ton of medical expense outside of insurance, I reached the point that, okay, if we're going to get this book out, I got to have some help. Yep. And the book is definitely going to be worth getting out. This is kind of a combination between books 1 and 2, Writing with Ghost Angels and Spirits of the Dead and The Knock in the Attic. I talk about my paranormal experiences. I go back to my childhood with a never before written about stories from my childhood and some really bizarre, strange paranormal experiences that were really incredible. I go back to paranormal experiences in the first 2 books and revisit those and update them. I add in stories that are current. I add in stories that are not just in your face paranormal, but if you're a spiritual person and you strive to live spiritually, this is what you can glean from this, and this is what you can learn from this if you're observant and you live this way in this world. Okay. And I'll put in some of those things. So the book is almost finished. I'm nearly done with The Rascal. Yeah. Oh, wow. And by the end of this year, by the end of 2023, by December, I need to have and hope to have the money raised to pay the publisher for this. I've got to pay for the book cover design. I've got to pay for the publishing, the distribution, so on and so forth. And truthfully, right now, I just don't have it. And so I'm counting on people to come forward. People are starting to begin to come forward and contribute to that. So I'm asking the people to donate that. If you've liked my books in the past, you've read them, you've liked them. If you've got a reading with me, you like what I do. If you've listened to my podcast, there's been over 140 podcasts in the past couple of years. If you listen to those, you've liked what you've heard. I need your help now. I need your assistance in getting this out. So that's why the request there.
Well, there you go. And we'll have a link in the description of this program so you can click on the GoFundMe. And if you'd like to contribute to John's new book, The Crying Tree and the Magic Rock, by all means you can.
Yeah, and hopefully that's going to be out. If we get the funding, that'll be out in early 2024. Hopefully at least by March, which will be my 70th birthday. So that'll be kind of a celebration there. And in the meantime, the first two books are still available at all major booksellers online. And the new book is literally hot off the press. It's been out less than a month. And that's available right now. And people really enjoyed that. 20 ways to increase your psychic abilities that we've been talking about during this podcast.
That's right, with a foreword by J.V. Johnson. So 20 ways to increase your psychic abilities. We have a link to that in the description of the program as well.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so you can click on that and get that book as well and enjoy that book. And by all means, folks, throw a little bit of cash by John's way, and let's get the Crying Tree and the Magic Rock out there so we can enjoy that book as well.
It's going to be a wild book. It's a little bit of a departure, even above the first two books, for some of the just crazy paranormal experiences in it. And I really expanded it and gone in directions, like I say, from being a kid on up to now. There's things in it. I've never talked about these on a podcast before. I've never written about them before.
Really? So
there's going to be some things in there that are brand new and unique to this book.
Well, I'll tell you, I've enjoyed the previous books and this book that you're promoting now. And
thank you.
I got to tell you that I can't wait for the Crying Tree and the Magic Rock. So bless
your heart. I appreciate it so much, Tim. I really do.
Yeah. So that, again, folks, links are in the description of the program. I encourage you to check out the brand new one we've been talking about, 20 ways to increase your psychic abilities. And I encourage you to go donate to the Crying Tree and the Magic Rock, and let's get it published.
Right. Let's do that.
All right,
absolutely.
Great. John,
thank you, Tim.
John Russell, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you being on the show, and we got lots of catching up to do, my friend.
We do. Yeah. Listen, my brother, I appreciate you. It's always great to be back. Great interview, great time. Appreciate the listeners, and we will do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. When the Crying Tree and the Magic Rock comes out, we'll talk about that.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Want to thank my guest, John Russell. 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities is the name of the book. The link is in the description of this program. Also want to encourage you to, if you can, donate to the GoFundMe account and help with the next book. If you feel the urge, we'll put it that way, to donate, please do. And we'll keep the cycle going of John Russell books out there. And we'll have him back for the next one. We'll talk a little bit about the next one. I'm intrigued by the stories that should be in this one. It should be an interesting book. Folks, this weekend's going to be a busy weekend. So whether you are in Michigan, come say hi to me out at Michigan Paracon. I'd love to see your smiling faces. By the way, if you come by the table and you request to talk to Beer City Bruiser, I shall whip this out, so to speak. I'll either have my phone or my iPad, and we'll dial up Beer City Bruiser if he's available, so you can talk to both of us. Or if you are in the North Carolina area and you are available, go check out the incredible AML Wrestling show that's going to be on Sunday, August 27th. Of course, you heard him on yesterday's show talk about Kane and Eric Redbeard and some of the other wrestlers that are going to be there. If you can't be there in person, you can go to Title Match Wrestling, the pay-per-view service, and watch the pay-per-view. $9.99 a month. We've got a link to it at darknessradioshow.com in the events section. You can sign up and you can watch the AML wrestling event for just $9.99. Bruiser's producing a lot of the matches and back show vignettes for that show. Does an awesome job. So by all means, check it out. If you're a fan of Bruiser's, you're going to love some of the work that he does there with AML Wrestling. Like I said, going to be a good weekend. If you can, check one of us or both of us out this weekend if you are so inclined. Otherwise, if you're just hanging out around the house and you are so inclined, it is going to be hot around the country this weekend, especially around the South. Again, I'll encourage you to take care of yourselves and each other. Make sure you check in on an elderly neighbor or an infirm neighbor, someone who may not be as fortunate as you. Maybe they might need some of your help this weekend. If you can help them do some chores or just check in on them, make sure that they are healthy and getting enough to drink. Maybe make sure that they aren't, having troubles with heat stroke or heat prostration. That would be greatly appreciated. Look in on one another, folks. We only have a couple weeks left of this hot weather, so we need to be looking out for each other. And then we'll get into fall. We can start to, look after each other in different ways, in a celebratory manner. So just do that for one another, folks. It's greatly appreciated, and your friends here at Darkness Radio would appreciate you as well if you could do that. Reminder coming into next week, Parashare stories. We need your Parashare stories. Tim at darknessradio.com, or go to darknessradioshow.com. Click on that blue button on the right-hand side of the website, and you can leave us a voice note. We'd appreciate that as well. If you need more than the 2 minutes that blue button gives you, click on that blue button again and get an additional 2 minutes, and I'll stitch those together, and I'll make 4 minutes because I learned math in school, believe it or not. So do that. We'd love your voice notes. We'd love your emails, whatever you want to do there. As far as True Crime Tuesday goes, we love it when you send us those stories. You're doing a great job sending us stories for dumb crimes, stupid criminals. But I also want to know your I Knew a Murderer stories. If you have the I Knew a Murderer stories, you can send those in as well to tim@darknessradio.com. Be sure to do that as well. So, again, tim@darknessradio.com if you have the I Knew a Murderer stories. We'd appreciate those as well. That'll do it for this week, folks. Want to thank our sponsor for this week, Factor Meals. Again, you can get 50% off Factor Meals by going to factormeals.com/darkness50, putting in darkness50 at checkout. Check out some of the delicious meals that are there. Again, they are chef-made and fresh meals delivered to your door. You can get back on your fitness goals by going to factormeals.com/darkness50. Save 50% off your meals by doing that right now. And again, patronize our sponsors because they are putting their money where their mouth is and sponsoring the shows and keeping these shows free for you. So please do that for us, would you? For Beer City Bruiser, for Mally Fox, for Jessica Freeberg, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for being great listeners and continuing to listen to this program. We will see you next week for another great week of the best in paranormal and true crime programming. This is Darkness Radio.